Well, folks, I made it back from California in one piece. I've had so many people reach out to ask me if I was okay and if I had a good trip. I made it home okay. Well, I made it home, but just barely. I could probably do a whole series on my trip home. Um, I was coming from Sacramento, going to land in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then just do a very quick, like, hour plane ride back over to Knoxville. And I thought that won't be bad. That'll be a piece of cake. We get to the Charlotte airport. The flight had been delayed. Had to sit around and wait for that. And then we finally get on the plane, and they're like, "We're sorry for the inconvenience, but the truck that was bringing our fuel ran out of fuel. So they got to go back and get some more. We got to wait while they get some fuel." So that took a while. And then when we finally got in the air, there was so much turbulence from every angle. That's one of the most bumpy plane rides I've ever had. And I don't know if this guy watches my videos. I hope he doesn't. But whoever was sitting beside me, I don't think he had bathed since Clinton was in office. And so, yeah, it was a hell of a ride home. And then we land in Knoxville, and we get on the ground, and they're like, "Well, sorry for the inconvenience, but we're going to have to wait a few minutes so they can bring a ramp or some steps to get you out of the plane." So, shout out to the lady from Lightning Taxi in Knoxville who came to the rescue and got me back across the road to the hotel and got my car. uh, yeah, that was first time ever being in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one that I will never forget. But I did. Spend a lot of time this morning reading up on the news and catching up on everything that's been going on. And one of the stories that I actually saw while I was in California, and I said to myself, I definitely want to put some emphasis on that. I think we definitely need to circle back to this story because this is one that should raise eyebrows regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum. Okay, whether you're Republican that Trump will call a rhino, whether you're moderate left, moderate right, far left, MAGA, no matter what you are, this really is one of those things that should raise eyebrows for everyone. And I don't think that this should even be about politics. This should be about our national security. We should be more worried about these things. And this is something we should all share in common. So I want to go back to this story. It's a couple of days old now, but I just think this is one that we really need to focus on. So I want to bring this up. This is from the Midas Touch Network. 100 national security officials signed letter demanding closed-door hearings on Tulsi Gabbard. This here was written by Troy Matthews. Gabbard has a history of praising dictators and trashing the U.S. intelligence community. Donald Trump's nomination of Tulsi Gabbard to lead the U.S. intelligence community has caused alarm, with nearly 100 national security officials penning an open letter to Senators John Thune and Chuck Schumer asking for closed-door hearings for senators to receive briefings on Trump's controversial pick. If appointed to the office of Director of National Intelligence, Gabbard would oversee 18 agencies, including the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA, and would have tremendous influence interpreting and replaying the highest level of classified material to the president. The letter urges that Thune and Schumer, the new Senate majority and minority leaders, respectively, to allow senators to review all the information available to the U.S. government on Gabbard's prior to holding her confirmation vote. The letter cites Gabbard's sympathy for dictators like Vladimir Putin and Assad and raises questions about her judgment and fitness. Several of Ms. Gabbard's past actions call into question her ability to deliver unbiased intelligence briefings to the President, Congress, and to the entire national security apparatus, the letter said. Following her trip to Syria, for example, Ms. Gabbard aligned herself with Russian and Syrian officials. She publicly cast doubt on U.S. intelligence reports and overwhelming public reporting that Assad carried out chemical weapon attacks against civilians, given credence to debunked conspiracy theories that the attack was staged by agents of the United Kingdom. As Director of National Intelligence, Ms. Gabbard would be entrusted with the identification and protection of human sources working in the most dangerous settings around the world to defend national security, and the protection of our most sensitive sources and methods of gathering intelligence. The letter concludes by asking that the Senate hold closed-door hearings to make all information on Gabbard available to senators so they may fully and properly engage in their advice and consent function of approving presidential nominees to key positions in the government. It is signed by nearly 100 former ambassadors, retired high-ranking members of the military, and State Department officials. So again, to me, this is not about Republicans versus Democrats. It's not about liberals versus conservatives. This is something that should raise everyone's eyebrows and we should all be very concerned about. But we're at a very different place in American history now, and it's one that I don't feel comfortable in at all. I think back to the Iraq War, and I remember there was a lot of heated arguments that I had with friends. We disagreed very strongly about that subject. I was one that thought we should not have went to Iraq. I had friends that believed that we should have, but I don't remember having friends that was for Saddam Hussein. I don't remember having friends that was cheering him on and praising him for the way that he ran Iraq. As a matter of fact, back then, Republicans was arguing to me that we needed to go into the Middle East and install democracy because we didn't need dictators. So now we've come through this point where all of a sudden they're okay with someone saying they'll be a dictator on day one. They're okay with someone saying they'll terminate the Constitution. And they're okay with someone like Tulsi Gabbard having a position like this. And it just makes me sit back and scratch my head and say, how in the hell did we get here? I could see where we would have disagreements about whether or not to support Ukraine or whatever the case may be. But I would never imagine that we would sit back and watch someone invade a sovereign country, one of our allies, and then we got people pulling for that guy. It's something that makes absolutely no sense to me, except when you really look at what Vladimir Putin has going on in Russia. And then you look at what Republicans really want to be happening here. I mean, there's no wonder that Tucker Carlson is so buddy-buddy with the guy, and people like Elon Musk is so buddy-buddy with him, because that's the kind of country they want this to be. And that's everything that our grandparents raised us to be against. I don't know how we got so far away from what we were founded on. I don't know how we got so far away from it all, and people just rolled with it. But I think a lot of it has to do simply with education in this country. I really feel like a whole lot of people weren't brought up to understand it. They were just brought up that, well, Papaw's a Republican, so we vote that way. Papa would roll over in his grave if he thought I was voting for a Democrat. And they just latch on to those cliches and those kind of ways of thinking, and then sit back and you just watch them lose everything we worked so hard to put in place. It's pretty disheartening. But again, I don't feel like this should be a political issue. This is one of those things where if the same exact thing was being said about someone on the left, I would want that person investigated. I would want to know exactly what kind of person that is, because I realize that while, yes, most of my viewpoints do land on the left side of the aisle, that's the way I've always leaned. I do realize there are people out there who could manipulate that to their advantage. I'm very aware of that. So I want to know who's in charge, and I want to know about them. I want to know who has positions like this, and everyone should. Again, it shouldn't be about a us versus them kind of mentality, because if someone like that is compromised, then that puts us all at risk, and that's something none of us should ever want or be for. To blow that off and just write it off as, well, that's fake news. That's just the liberals they're just against anybody Trump picked. No, if you really cared about the security of our country and where we go forward, then you would want to know too. And if you found out that person was compromised, you should not want them anywhere near any position of power. But as we go forward, it's going to be very interesting to see how things unfold, because I feel like we're in a very different place now in this country. It doesn't feel the same to me. I hope that we're able to. I've heard people talk about us going through some dark times to get to the good times. I hope that's what this is. I hope it's just another test we have to face and stand up to, and I hope we come out on the other side of it okay. But until we can put our politics aside on issues like this and realize, hey, we're really all in this together, whether we want to be or not. And we're going to have to learn how to work together somehow. And the way we do that, first of all, is looking into the people that's being put up for positions of power and then saying, hey, no, this person isn't fit, and it's not about politics. But again, I thank you guys so much for coming along with me on this wild and bumpy ride that we're now on as we close in on 500,000 subscribers. I still can't really wrap my mind around that, but I'm back in the saddle. I appreciate Coach D, Mike and Jeremy from The Voice of Reason for filling in for me while I was gone. But I'm back in the saddle, and I'm ready to keep going. And as long as I have a platform to use my voice, this is exactly what I'm going to be doing. So again, thanks to everyone out there for supporting what it is that I do, and I hope everyone has a great day.